You have been lied to about the entire nature of your existence. Everything you believe about your problems, your lacks, and your limitations is a profound misperception, a shadow cast upon the wall of reality. You are not a separate entity struggling in a world of other separate entities. That is the great illusion, the hypnotic dream from which you are now being called to awaken. This is not a teaching to add to your collection of beliefs. It is a fiery revelation, a direct impartation of truth that demands the complete and utter abandonment of the mental constructs you call your life. We are not here to improve the human scene. We are here to dissolve it in the light of a single, supreme, and undeniable fact. What you will discover in these moments is the one thing that has always been present, the very fabric and substance of your being, patiently awaiting your recognition. It is the end of seeking and the beginning of knowing. It is the quiet, thunderous reality that renders every fear powerless and every question obsolete. If your heart has heard this call, then you must make this journey a sacred duty. Commit to this awakening by subscribing to this channel, making your presence here a vow to your own unfolding. Confirm your readiness by commenting the number 1, symbolizing the one truth, the one life, and the one moment of now in which all freedom is found. We begin by confronting the central, most pervasive lie, the belief that you are an isolated self, a fragile capsule of skin and bone and thought, navigating through a world of other separate capsules, each competing for safety, for survival, for a fragment of something called happiness. This is the foundational error, the primal misperception that generates the entire spectrum of human suffering, the loneliness, the conflict, the anxiety, and the ceaseless yearning. You look out upon a universe of objects, your job, your bank account, your relationships, your health, your very body, and you perceive them as external realities acting upon you, the central character. This is the dream. It is a convincing and compelling narrative, but a narrative nonetheless, and your unquestioned faith in it is the source of every limitation you experience. Consider the daily tremor of anxiety. You feel it as a personal possession, a dark cloud within your own mental sky, threatening your peace. You believe it is yours, born of your circumstances, tied to your past, forecasting your future. You try to manage it, to fight it, to understand it from within the very framework of the separate self that generated it. But what if that anxiety is not a personal flaw, but a signal, a dissonance arising from the belief in separation itself? It is the friction created when the wave believes it is separate from the ocean, trembling at the sight of other waves, fearing the shoreline, ignorant of the vast, supporting depth that is its true substance. Your fear of lack, the gnawing worry about finances or provisions, is not a sign of a failing in your human planning, though it masquerades as one. It is the shadow cast by the belief that you are a finite entity cut off from infinite source, that you must grasp and secure and hoard from a limited world. You are not in a universe of limited resources. You are entertaining a perception of limitation based on a false premise of identity. Look at conflict in a relationship. It appears so real, so tangible, the words spoken, the hurt felt, the distance between two people. From within the dream, you are right and they are wrong, or you are wounded and they are the aggressor. You strategize from the fortress of your separate self on how to fix, to change, to win, or to retreat. Yet this entire painful drama is staged on the set of duality. It requires two separate selves, two islands shouting across a chasm. The moment the recognition dawns, not intellectually, but as a living truth, that there are not two separate consciousnesses in conflict, but one consciousness appearing as two forms, the very ground of the conflict dissolves. The problem was never the other person's behavior. It was the foundational, unseen agreement that you are fundamentally apart from them. The healing is not in a better human interaction, though that may follow. It is in the shattering of the mirror of separation. Your very body, which you so intimately identify as yourself, is perceived through this veil. You praise it or criticize it. You feed it and fear for it. You call it mine. But this body you fret over is an appearance within your awareness, not the source of it. The headache seems to be in your head, the fatigue, your burden. You fight these sensations as personal invaders. Yet, are you the sensation, or are you the awareness in which the sensation is known? Are you the aching limb, or the silent, boundless space of knowing in which the ache arises and subsides? To believe you are the separate body is to be forever its victim, subject to its inevitable decay. To realize you are the awareness that appears within is to find an immortal peace that no physical condition can touch. This illusion is not a philosophical idea. It is the active architect of your daily hell. The moment a thought arises, I am not good enough. I am alone. I must protect myself. It derives all its power from the unexamined assumption that the I it refers to is a true, separate entity. The entire machinery of self-improvement, of building a better personal self, however noble it seems, often simply reinforces the prison. It is the self trying to fix the self, the dream character, trying to alter the dream, never questioning the reality of the dream itself. The breakthrough comes not through building a brighter, more successful separate self, but in the startling, quiet revelation that the separate self is a mirage. There is no other to fear. There is no external world to conquer or placate. There is only the infinite, indivisible reality, appearing as all form, dancing as all movement, knowing itself as all being. Your daily life, with all its trivial tasks and profound challenges, is not the story of a person navigating a world. It is the one divine consciousness expressing, experiencing, and recognizing itself as you. The noise of the mind, the turbulence of emotion, the drama of circumstances, these are not your enemies. They are the call, urgent and relentless, to look not at them, but through them to the single, solitary, magnificent reality that has always been and will always be your only true being. This understanding brings us to a profound and necessary crisis, the end of seeking, We have been conditioned, as inhabitants of the dream of separation, to be seekers. Our entire life energy has been poured into the frantic, desperate activity of seeking security, seeking love, seeking peace, seeking God. We are told from childhood that fulfillment is out there, in the future, in the next achievement, the next relationship, the next spiritual technique, the next peak experience. We have turned our existence into a pilgrimage to a distant shrine, convinced that salvation lies at the end of a long journey of accumulation and self-betterment. This seeking is the very engine of the separate self. It is the proof of its perceived lack. To seek is to affirm with every fiber of your being that you do not already have, that you are not already complete, that what you are is insufficient and must be added to from some external source. Consider the exhausting pursuit of peace of mind. You buy the books, you attend the seminars, you practice the meditations, you follow the guru, all in pursuit of a state called peace. You measure your days by your proximity to it. A good day is one where you feel it. A bad day is one where you have lost it. You have turned peace into an object, a commodity to be acquired, and then, inevitably, protected from the vicissitudes of life. But peace pursued is peace perpetually postponed. The moment you make it an object of desire, you place it outside yourself in the future, and you appoint yourself as the anxious seeker who may or may not find it. The truth that shatters this weary search is that peace is not an experience that comes and goes. It is the very nature of the awareness in which all experiences, peaceful and turbulent, appear and disappear. You are not seeking peace. You are it, pretending to be a seeker. The frantic search is like a man riding a horse, galloping everywhere, looking for his horse, not realizing he is already mounted. The seeking must cease, not because you find the object, but because you awaken to the realization that you are the very substance you sought. Observe your daily hunt for validation and love. You look to your partner, your family, your friends, your social media followers to give you a feeling of worth, to reflect back to you an image of yourself that you can tolerate. A kind word uplifts you. A criticism devastates you. Your emotional world becomes a roller coaster controlled by the perceived opinions of others. This is seeking love as something external, something that can be given or taken away. It is the hunger of the imaginary self, feeling empty and seeking to be filled from the outside. But what if this ache itself is the pointer? What if this longing for unconditional love is not a sign that it is missing, but a haunting memory of what you inherently are? You are not a container that needs to be filled with love. You are the ocean of love itself. And the separate self is a tiny cup afraid of its own emptiness, dipping itself into the ocean and wondering where the water comes from. The end of seeking love is the falling away of the cup. It is the shocking, silent realization that you have never, for one instant, been separate from the infinite, all embracing love that is the core of existence. The search stops because the seeker dissolves into the sought. Even the so, called spiritual search, the most subtle and seductive of all, must come to a complete and final halt. You seek enlightenment, awakening, a mystical experience, a state of permanent bliss. You chase visions, you crave revelations, you collect initiations. But listen carefully. As long as you are seeking a spiritual state, you are affirming that you are not already one with the divine reality. You are perpetuating the separation under a new, holy guise. The most profound trap is to turn truth itself into a future goal. The message here is not to find a better object to seek, but to stop seeking entirely. It is to turn the attention not outward toward a promised attainment, but inward, backward, to the very source of the attention itself. Who is this one who seeks? What is its substance? Before the thought, I must find God, arises what is already effortlessly present. That which is present before the seeking begins is the only reality. Everything added to it is the dream. The end of seeking is not a passive resignation. It is the most dynamic, revolutionary act possible. It is the unconditional surrender of the entire project of self-improvement and acquisition. It means you stop trying to fix the dream character and instead wake up from the dream. Your daily life becomes the arena, not for seeking, but for recognizing. You do not seek patience in traffic. You recognize the infinite space of awareness that holds the frustration. You do not seek strength for your burdens. You abide as the unchanging presence to which the burdens appear. The energy that was once wasted in the frantic pursuit of 1,000 things is now freed, concentrated, and available. It becomes a silent, potent power that operates through you, not as you. Life is no longer a journey from lack to fulfillment. It is the constant, immediate revelation of the already fulfilled. The treasure is not at the end of the map. The map itself is drawn on the treasure. To stop seeking is not to arrive. It is to realize you were never, could never be, anywhere else but home. This recognition of the already present reality leads us into the very heart of what is, into the impersonal nature of all existence. This is perhaps the most challenging and liberating truth to embrace, for it calls for the complete relinquishment of personal ownership, personal credit, and personal blame. We have lived so deeply within the story of a personal I that we perceive the universe through that tiny, distorting lens. We believe our thoughts are our private creations, our feelings are our personal reactions, and our bodies are our personal property. We speak of my life as if it were a novel we are authoring, with ourselves as the central character whose will and decisions dictate the plot. This is the final fortress of the ego, the last stronghold of separation, the belief in a personal self as the center and cause of experience. Consider the simple act of a thought arising. I must remember to pay the bill, or what a beautiful sunset. Immediately, the sense of I claims it. I thought that. But investigate closely. Did you, as a personal chooser, summon that thought from nothing? Did you decide its exact wording, its timing, its arrival? Or did it simply appear spontaneously in the field of awareness? The thought of the bill may arise because you saw an envelope, a chain of associations set in motion by impersonal perception. The appreciation of the sunset arises when consciousness meets form and light. Where is the personal authorship? You are the witness of the thought, not its manufacturer. To believe you are the thinker is to take responsibility for a ceaseless, often chaotic, stream of mental events over which you have no ultimate control, and then to struggle to manage that stream. This is the root of so much mental anguish. To see thoughts as impersonal events, as clouds passing through the sky of your being, is to be freed from their tyranny. The compulsive, fearful, or obsessive thought loses its power when it is no longer claimed as mine, but is seen as an impersonal phenomenon appearing and dissolving in the vastness. Observe your emotions with this same scrutiny. Anger flares. The ancient automatic mechanism kicks in. I am angry. He made me angry. This is the personal story. But step back from the story. Feel the anger as a raw, surging energy in the body, a heat, a tension, a vibration. Where did it come from? Did you consciously construct it piece by piece? Or did it arise triggered by an event, an interpretation, a memory, all of which are themselves impersonal processes? The emotion is an impersonal weather pattern moving through the climate of your organism. The moment you say, I am angry, you solidify the weather into an identity, you become the storm. But if you can behold it as you would behold a thundercloud, impersonal, temporary, not self-it can rage without destroying you. It arises, it plays out, it exhausts itself. You are the space for the storm, not the storm itself. This is not suppression. It is the highest form of clarity. The grief that seems to shatter you is not your personal possession. It is the universal heart's response to loss flowing through this particular form. By not personalizing it, you allow it its full dignity and passage without being annihilated by it. This extends to what we call our abilities and or successes. The pianist plays a stunning sonata and the audience applauds the person. But ask the true artist in that moment of flow who is playing. The personal self, with its fears and desires, has vanished. There is only the music expressing itself through the instrument of the body. The great insight, the brilliant solution at work, did you craft it or did it dawn upon you? It dawned. It was given. It is an activity of the universal intelligence, the one creative principle, functioning through the particular set of conditions you call your mind. To claim it personally is to invite arrogance and its shadow, the fear of failure. To see it as an impersonal manifestation is to live in a state of humble gratitude and continuous wonder. Your very body, which feels so intimately personal, is an impersonal miracle of organized stardust, governed by laws of biology and chemistry you did not create, breathing air you do not own, sustained by a force you did not invent. Life itself is an impersonal force. It does not love you or hate you, it lives you. The sun shines impersonally. The rain falls impersonally. The law of gravity operates impersonally. The intelligence that grows a blade of grass and orchestrates the cosmos is one and the same, and it is not personal. It is divine, infinite, and impartial. Your greatest freedom lies in aligning with this impersonality. When perceived misfortune strikes, the loss of a job, an illness, a betrayal, the personal mind cries, "Why is this happening to me?" This question is the sound of suffering. The impersonal view sees only the unfolding of infinite cause and effect, the rearrangement of the one substance. It does not ask, "Why me?" but "What now?" It meets the circumstance without the added layer of a victim story. Conversely, when great good arrives, the impersonal view does not puff up with pride, but kneels in thanksgiving to the source of all blessing. You become a clear, open channel, a window for the impersonal light to shine through. Your life ceases to be a personal drama of triumph and tragedy. It becomes a sacred, purposeful expression of the one life, lived uniquely, but not personally. You are not the author of the story, nor even really a character in it. You are the silent, boundless awareness in which the entire, beautiful impersonal story is being told. Now we come to the practical pivot, the transformative hinge upon which all of this turns from theory into lived reality, listening. But this is not listening as the world understands it. This is not the straining of the personal mind to hear a new doctrine or to capture an inspiring sentiment. This is listening as a spiritual act, as the very mode of conscious union with the infinite. It is the complete yielding of the outer, seeking, calculating mind in order to become attuned to a different frequency altogether, the silent, ceaseless impartation of truth that emanates from the very core of being. The personal self cannot hear this. It is too busy speaking, planning, remembering, and fearing. It listens only for what confirms its own narrative or promises a personal reward. True listening is the death of that self-absorption and the birth of an entirely new faculty of perception. Consider the noise of your own internal dialogue. It is a constant commentary, a judge presiding over every moment. This is good. That is bad. I remember when I hoped that. What if? This is the static that drowns out the signal. It is the clamor of the separate self defending its territory. The act of spiritual listening begins with the simple, profound decision to stop. Not to stop the thoughts by force. That is just more noise, but to cease giving them your allegiance, to stop identifying as the speaker of this internal broadcast. You turn your attention away from the content of the thoughts and toward the space in which they occur. You listen not to the words, but to the silence that holds them. In the middle of a stressful day, with demands pressing in from all sides, instead of following the frantic chain of thought about how to manage it all, you pause. You become still. You listen beneath the panic. What you are listening for is not an answer in words, but a presence, a stability, a peace that is already there, waiting underneath the tumult like the deep, still floor of a stormy ocean. This listening is an act of surrender. It is saying, I do not know. I will be instructed. This listening is active in every moment, if you allow it. You are in a difficult conversation. The personal mind is instantly crafting rebuttals, defending its position, preparing its attack. The emotion of being wronged is shouting its case. But what if, in that very moment, you could listen not to the other person's words as a personal affront, but to the situation itself? What if you could listen for the truth of the moment beyond the egos involved? This listening would create a space. It would allow a wisdom to function that is not your personal cleverness. You might find words coming through you that heal rather than hurt, that clarify rather than confuse. The solution to the conflict was never in your prepared argument. It was in the silent, intelligent reality that emerges when the personal mind steps aside and listens. You face a decision, a crossroad in your career, in a relationship, in your life. The personal mind weighs pros and cons. It projects fears based on the past. It grasps at desires for the future. It is a committee of voices, each with its own agenda, and the result is confusion and anxiety. How do you listen here? You must quiet the committee. You must go into that inner quiet, that place of not knowing, and you must listen for a direction that feels not like a thought, but like a knowing. It has no words. It is a pull, an alignment, a sense of rightness that comes from a deeper center than the chattering mind. This is not intuition as a personal gift. It is the one intelligence guiding its own expression. You are listening for the next note in a melody that is being played by a larger composer. When you act from that listening, there is no regret. Even if the outcome appears difficult, for you acted from alignment with a reality beyond your limited understanding. Even in what you call prayer, this listening is the essence. So, called prayer is so often a monologue, a list of requests sent out from a sense of lack to a distant deity. True prayer is listening. It is going within into the sacred silence with no agenda, no petition. It is an open, receptive attention, a state of humble readiness to receive an impartation. You are not asking for things to change in the dream. You are asking to be shown the truth that dispels the dream. You listen, and in that listening, a transformation occurs not in circumstances, but in consciousness. A strength you did not concoct, a love you did not manufacture, a clarity you did not reason your way toward, is revealed as your native state. Your entire life becomes this practice of listening. You listen while washing the dishes, hearing the silence between the sounds. You listen in nature, not to the bird's song as a separate sound, but to the totality of the auditory field as a single holy vibration. You listen to your own body not as a critic, but as one would listen to a delicate instrument, hearing its needs without panic or personal drama. This listening is the gateway. It is how the impersonal, infinite reality makes itself known as your very own being. It is the end of seeking, because in the depth of listening, you find that what you were listening for is the listener itself. The seeker dissolves into the act of attention, and in that dissolution, you discover you are not a person trying to hear God. You are the very hearing, the very awareness in which the divine dialogue of existence is eternally unfolding. To listen in this way is to abandon the shoreline of the personal self and to swim in the ocean of direct, unmediated knowing. As this inner listening deepens, as the static of the personal self begins to fade, a magnificent and undeniable reality starts to disclose itself. It is not a new place you arrive at, but a kingdom you discover has always been present, right where you are, hidden in plain sight. We call it the inner kingdom, but that is a concession to language, for it is neither inner nor outer. It is the very substance and reality of all that is. It is the foundational consciousness, the I am, from which all things spring and in which all things have their being. You have spent a lifetime seeking power, security, love, and abundance in the external world, in other people, in institutions, in possessions, in achievements. You have knocked on 1,000 doors, begging for scraps of fulfillment from a universe you perceived as separate and often withholding. All of that seeking, all of that knocking, was a profound misunderstanding of address. The throne room, the treasury, the source of all supply, was never outside you. It is the very consciousness that reads these words. Consider your pursuit of security. You believe it lies in a number in a bank account, in a title, in a loyal relationship, in a strong body. And so you toil, you worry, you grasp, you protect. Yet, every one of those external anchors is inherently temporary, subject to the tides of change. The market can crash. The title can be lost. Relationships transform. The body ages. When security is sought externally, anxiety is its constant shadow. Now, shift the gaze entirely. The inner kingdom is a realm of absolute security because it is the only thing that is unchanging. It is the awareness itself, the silent witness that was present in your childhood, is present now and will be present in your last breath. It cannot be threatened. It cannot be diminished. It is the rock of ages. When you abide as that, when you know yourself as that consciousness first, the need for external guarantees falls away. You engage with the world. You make practical plans. But you do so from a foundation of unshakable peace. You are no longer a beggar at the world's door. You are the emperor who has discovered his own domain. Observe the quest for love and companionship. The hunger for this is the deepest human ache. You look to another person to complete you, to make you feel whole, to give you a reason for being. This is the great romantic tragedy, for it places the responsibility for your wholeness in the hands of another, who is themselves seeking the same from you. It is a contract of mutual emptiness. The inner kingdom reveals the staggering truth that you are the source of the very love you seek. The love you crave is not an emotion to be received. It is the essential nature of the consciousness that you are. It is impersonal, infinite, and unconditioned. When you begin to abide in this knowing, a revolutionary change occurs in all your relationships. You no longer approach another person as a needy vessel seeking to be filled. You approach them as one center of consciousness, recognizing another. Love then becomes not something you get, but something you are, and therefore something you naturally express. You become a fountain, not a drain. The relationship is no longer a desperate search for wholeness, but a celebration of it. This kingdom is also the source of all true power. The world teaches you that power is the ability to exert your will over others or over circumstances. It is a brittle, fear-based thing, requiring constant defense and generating constant resistance. The power of the inner kingdom is of an entirely different order. It is the power of presence, of intelligent creativity, of grace. It is the power that allows the rose to bloom, the planets to orbit, and a healing insight to flash into the mind. You do not wield it, you surrender to it and let it wield you. When faced with a challenge that seems beyond your personal capacity, a creative block, a complex problem, a physical limitation, you do not try harder from the cramped quarters of the personal self. You retreat consciously into the inner kingdom. You become still. You listen. You relinquish the claim of personal authorship. And then, from that silent, fertile ground, an intelligence begins to move. An idea emerges. Energy flows where there was stagnation. A path appears where there was a wall. This is not your power. It is the power of the one life, functioning freely through an unblocked channel. Your daily life is the proving ground. The moment you feel lack, whether of time, money, energy, or ideas, that feeling is a siren call to turn within. It is not a signal to strive harder in the outer world, but to remember the kingdom. The feeling of insult or offense is an invitation to check your citizenship. Have you mistakenly identified as a vulnerable citizen of the outer world of egos, or do you remember you are the sovereign of an indestructible realm? Every anxiety, every fear, every longing is simply a forgotten soul trying to find its way back to the palace it never left. You do not build this kingdom. You do not earn it. You acknowledge it. You consciously take up residence within it, and from that vantage point, you watch the outer world of form rearrange itself in harmony with the truth of your being. The supply for every need is here. The love for every loneliness is here. The strength for every burden is here. It has always been here, awaiting only your recognition. Your royal return from the exile of separation to the throne of your own eternal consciousness. And from this recognition of the inner kingdom, from this abiding in the source, there flows one final, crowning realization, the ultimate truth that unravels the last thread of the personal struggle, grace as the only power. All your striving, all your efforts to be good, to be spiritual, to be successful, to be healed, have been exercises in personal will. You have believed that by the sweat of your brow and the force of your determination, you could reshape reality to your liking, that you could wrestle peace from chaos, wholeness from brokenness, and light from darkness. This belief in personal will is the last and most subtle form of the separate self, the final illusion that you are the door. It is the cause of exhaustion, frustration, and the bitter taste of failure, for it pits a tiny, imagined entity against the infinite movement of life itself. Grace is the understanding that there is no such battle, because there is only one power operating, one will being done, one intelligence unfolding, and it is not yours. It is the benevolent, spontaneous, and perfect activity of the one divine consciousness expressing itself as the universe. Your only role is to get out of the way and let it. Consider the most persistent problem in your life, the one you have fought against for years, a chronic anxiety, a broken relationship, a financial lack, a recurring pain. You have analyzed it, you have strategized against it, you have begged for strength to overcome it. This is the operation of personal will. It is you, as a separate self, declaring war on a circumstance, which only confirms the reality of both the fighter and the foe. The moment you cease that war, the moment you surrender the entire problem, not to apathy, but to a higher intelligence, you invite grace. This is not passive resignation. It is active trust in a power that knows the solution you cannot conceive. You stop trying to fix the person you think you are. You turn within to the kingdom, and you simply acknowledge, I of myself can do nothing. Let thy will be done. Then you watch. You may be led to take an action you never considered. A person may call out of the blue. An insight may dawn that redefines the entire problem, revealing it was never a problem at all. The circumstance may remain, but your relationship to it is transformed by a peace that defies understanding. This is grace in operation. It does not always change the picture on the screen. It changes the light by which you see it. Think of the effort you expend trying to be a better person, more patient, more loving, less judgmental. You set your will against your own nature and inevitably fail, leading to guilt and renewed striving. This is the treadmill of self-improvement. Grace approaches this from the opposite direction. It does not try to reform the person. It reveals that the person, with all its flaws, is not the ultimate reality. When you cease the project of self-reform and instead abide in the silent presence, something miraculous occurs. A patience that is not your own begins to surface. A compassion you did not manufacture flows through you. It is not you being good. It is the goodness of life itself expressing through a cleared channel. The fruit of the Spirit is not achieved by labor. It is grown by grace when you stop interfering with the soil and the sun. Even in practical daily action, grace is the only true power. You have an important presentation to give. Personal will practices frantically, worries about every word, fears the judgment of the audience, and tries to project a perfect image. The result is stiffness and anxiety. Grace operates differently. You prepare, yes, but then you surrender the outcome. You go into that meeting not as a separate performer, but as a transparency. You become quiet inside and you listen. The words come, but they feel given. A spontaneity and authority are present that you cannot claim as your own. The right person asks the perfect question. The connection in the room becomes palpable. This is not your success. It is the success of the intelligence that arranged the atoms in the room and the thoughts in the mind. Your action was an instrument played by a greater musician. This is the final surrender, the release of the belief that you are the architect of your life. Your life is being lived. The intelligence that spins galaxies and guides the migration of birds is the same intelligence that breathes your breath and beats your heart. To align with grace is to align with this current. It is to stop paddling frantically upstream and to let the river carry you. Your struggles, your sins, your failures, they were never obstacles to this grace, they were calls for it. The moment of your greatest helplessness is the moment most ripe for its intervention, for it is when the personal will finally exhaust itself and cries out. You do not earn grace by being worthy, you accept it by being empty. You empty yourself of the illusion of personal power, and the infinite power floods in, not to empower the person, but to dissolve it in the radiance of its own being. From this point, life is no longer something you manage. It is something you witness with awe and gratitude as the one divine actor performs the perfect play, with you not as the anxious star, but as the very stage, the audience, and the applause. All that is required is the surrender of the director's chair, and the whole universe rushes in to fill the space with a harmony so profound that the very question of power becomes obsolete.